Hello there. Welcome to Existential Sunday. If you are watching this later on, you're not watching this live, you're welcome to continue to watch this and feel free to share this. Oh my God, Corey, let's start all this over again. Welcome, hello to all of you who are watching Existential Sunday. If you're not watching it live or we've never met before, my name is Corey. I am a husband, a father, a podcaster, a writer, and a speaker, and a singer. Yeah, and an amateur sports player. I play golf and basketball sometimes. Enough about me. Welcome to Existential Sunday. If you are watching this live and you want to share this, of course, you never have to ask my permission to share it. You're more than welcome to do so. Even if you're watching it later and you feel like you want to share it, you can do so. All right, you can share it now, or you can wait to the end and share it. Also, shout out to my brother Andre Henry. Doesn't have to be this way because it doesn't have to be. Today is Sunday, and it is a day here in California where there's fires all around us. We're still sitting in a global pandemic. And today would have been Kobe Bryant's, I think, 41st birthday. So somewhat of a somber day, and my mind's kind of in a bunch of different places today. But I do have some things I want to share with you. If you're new, this is a space for people who are going through some sort of deconstruction or decolonization of their faith or their worldview in some way, shape, or form. And today I want to do a little bit more messing with like the worldview stuff and the way we see things. I want to process some stuff that I'm thinking. And I'm going to come to that, but I need to pause and let my brain do what my brain wants to do, which is to acknowledge the fact that there is a lot of awful shit happening. We have friends who lost their homes in the fires, and my thoughts and prayers are with them, and my heart's with them. I have friends who are really struggling with not only again the global pandemic, but the fact that now with the fires, even the things that we would use to cope with here in California. If you're not in California, this isn't a deal for you. And if you're not in Northern California, it may not be a deal for you. But for some folks, even the things that they were doing to to give them some sense of peace, outdoor activities, they now can't do those. And certainly those who have lost things due to the fire, my heart is with them. So actually, I'm going to do something I've never done on Existential before. I come from a Christian tradition. That's my background. A lot of you who watch this are not Christians, and you're welcome to watch. This is not a Christian space. It's just a space for people who want to talk about stuff or engage in conversation about things that matter in the world. And right now what matters is what's happening. So I'm going to pause for a moment, and I'm going to pray. And if that is something you guys, anyone who's watching, you don't really do that, that's not really your thing, you can either go grab a sandwich or something and come back, or you could just endure. I'm not going to pray long, but I just want to pray for a moment. Okay. God in heaven, creator of everything, I don't know what is happening. I don't know why the state is on fire. I don't know why there's a global pandemic. I don't know why people are suffering. And I'm not even sure how to talk to you about that, but I do know that there is a sense of peace that can often come from pausing to acknowledge that I don't have control, and hoping that you do, and that in the midst of all of this chaos and all of this brokenness, that you can somehow do something about it. Amen. All right. So let me push that behind us and move into what I want to talk about today. Guys, I've said it before. There is always good and really, really tragic happening in the world. Somebody's birthday is today, and someone will die. That is life. That is reality. And we have to live in that. And we have to make peace with that. And we have to find some way of making peace with that. And for a lot of us, making peace with that is religion, is a faith in God. For some people, making peace with that is to imagine that there is no God in the world and that we're on our own and all we have is each other. However you make peace with that, we have to do that. Okay, Corey, get to the point about the gas. All right, I'm here now. Okay. This earlier this week, I started thinking about this thing that I've thought about a lot. I've been like processing it for a long time. And I started thinking about this probably about 10, 15 years ago, because I started to realize that in every one of my memories, it's like me, almost like it's me on a stage, and there's like all of these other supporting actors and actresses that are a part of the story. And I coined this phrase that I'm sure is not unique to me. I'm not the only person who's ever said it, but I coined this phrase that everyone is the hero in their own story. And I can certainly say for me that as I look out at things that have happened, I look at them through the lens that, well, I was the hero in the story, and the thing that I did, I know why I did it. I know what motivated me to do the thing. The thing that they did to me was because they didn't understand, or they wronged me, they harmed me, because I'm looking at the world through this lens that I'm the hero. And it's really struck me this week because I've sat down for coffee with someone who I used to work with, who I was in the position to have to let go. So I had to fire this person, and we're exchanging stories. And I was finding it really fascinating that as we exchanged the stories about what happened from our vantage point, and this was a very good conversation. It wasn't confrontational. There was no conflict. As we were exchanging stories, it was like their perspective of the situation was, of course, I'll just say they were the hero. And in my perspective, I was the hero. We both had this like sense of, here's why I did this. And there's being, I don't understand why this thing happened. Right. And so in your own life, I imagine you can see this like in domestic relationships, in relationships with your children, who are back in school, by the way. Shout out to all the parents who are having to work and teach at the same time. You, with your children, with work, with friends, with people that you play sports with, or people you go to church with, or whatever community you're a part of, there are times where like confrontation or conflict arises. And in those moments where there's like messiness is where I think we see the most, that we tend to see ourselves through the lens of the hero. And I'm finding out how much in my own life I try so hard to be the hero. I try so hard for people to think that I'm smart and that I have it all together. And that's why, like, y'all don't even know how psycho I am when I write a piece to make sure there's not a single word spelled wrong. When I go back and read something I wrote, like after I posted it, I don't just like post it and let it go. I'll post it and I go back and read it. And if I find a typo, or someone messages me and says, hey, I found a typo, my heart is racing and I go running to fix it, because I need to keep the hero alive. Like, I need to keep people thinking about me in ways that, like, I want them to think about me. I don't want them to think I'm dumb. I don't want them to think I'm unprepared. I don't want them to think it's like, and I'm on this hamster wheel of heroism, trying to maintain a sense of I'm the hero in the story. I find myself being so paralyzed sometimes about not saying the wrong thing or asking the wrong question, because I'm so afraid of offending someone. I'm so afraid that somebody who I respect will hear what I said or read what I wrote and think something different of me, because I am locked into this notion of being the hero, being the person in the story that gets to stand like this and have everyone cheer. And it is killing us. It has stifled creativity. It has prevented us from doing things that we should do, because we tend to only do the things that we can look like the hero doing. And it's especially true when we start talking about anti-racism work. when we start talking about the justice issues that we've been talking about over the last, I don't know how long, especially true for all of my white brothers and sisters who fancy yourselves or want to be and truly genuinely want to be allies to Black folks in the movement for Black lives. Let me really now explain to you where this whole notion of trying to stay and be the hero can be really toxic and really harmful. In America, if you are white in America, everything around you reinforces the idea that white folks are supposed to show up and save the day. Think about what you heard in school about Christopher Columbus. Let's even think about the fact that we had a Columbus Day, in fact. But think about everything that you heard about Christopher Columbus growing up. You heard that Christopher Columbus came to America and discovered it. You heard that the Pilgrims sat down with the Native Americans and had a wonderful meal where they exchanged things back and forth. You heard very little about slavery. You heard that Abraham Lincoln was such an honest man that he walked a mile to return a penny that he owed somebody. You heard about George Washington's exploits. You heard about Thomas Jefferson. You heard about all of these American heroes. And again, Christopher Columbus being the beginning of this heroic journey into an unknown land. You heard all of that. And you did not hear about slavery, rape, genocide, murder, and a bunch of other awful things that happened. What you heard about was these heroes of history. And then when you started reading like mythical stories about Batman and Superman and Spider-Man and Aquaman and Wonder Woman and Captain Marvel, and you go on down the list, you were seeing heroes that looked like you. When you watched Lethal Weapon, you watched Mel Gibson be this sort of this troubled character, but he was the hero in the story, and you watched the lovable Danny Glover as the sidekick, as the Black sidekick to the hero. And your mind has been conditioned to believe that white folks are the heroes in the story. And so when you start to approach your efforts or your work when it comes to being an ally to Black folks, oftentimes what causes you to feel so much anxiety is not so much the work itself, but the fact that being involved in that work, a lot of allies, my white brothers and sisters who come to the table are trying to come to the table as the hero in the story. This is why so many, I believe this is part of why, not the whole reason why, but part of the reason why so many white folks have been equivocating, and even some Black folks, but mostly white folks equivocating on the support for Black Lives Matter are going, well, I support the fact that Black Lives Matter, but not the organization, which they know very little about, because they're trying to keep the hero alive. They're trying to maintain the sense of what I'm supposed to be the hero in the story. So if I need to keep my hero alive, so I don't want anybody to be mad at me by thinking that I associate with the antagonistic Marxist destroyers of nuclear family, supporters of the LGBTQ plus community. So I'm going to distance myself from those people over there who people who I support and support me think are the villains. But if I'm going to stay the hero, I can't associate with things that are villains, which, by the way, all of those things that have been demonized, we don't even know why they're demonized. You don't even know the history behind why you hate Marxism, or the evil that has come out of people projecting that the nuclear family is all that there is for people to be, forcing people into these constructs. And we think and we look at the forcing of people into these constructs as if that's the hero, and people who are standing up and saying, wait a minute, there's other ways of being that people can be, that we support and that we affirm. And we look at those people and say, you're the villain. And I think that is killing you and it's killing our movement. It's killing our progress towards a better world because everyone's trying to stay in a position where they look good. Can I tell you something? If you're my white brothers and sisters, and you're trying to be an ally in anti-racism and justice work, you don't get to be the hero. You don't even get to be the sidekick. Like when the credits roll on the anti-racism, on the ending of white supremacy, when those credits roll, your name will be down here, maybe listed with the like policeman number 6 with your name next to it. And if you are not okay with that role of an extra, of like supporting, of a support, of not winning any awards for it, of like not getting any credit for it, which is the reason why so many of my friends and brothers and sisters who are part of predominantly white evangelical churches, why they dip their toe in anti-racism work and then run away. Because early on, when you do it, yeah, you get a little bit of pushback, but mostly a lot of times what you get is a lot of hand clapping. In fact, I've seen people, and I told you this before, I have seen where people have said, my church is leading the way. And there's celebration, and you get to look like the hero and you win the awards of being people who stepped forward and said something about racism. But where the rubber meets the road is when people get tired of hearing you talking about racism. Do you stay with it then? When the pendulum begins to swing from you are so courageous, you are so heroic, wow, thank you so much for talking about it. When the pendulum starts to swing over to the space where people are like, oh my gosh, is he still talking about racism? We get it. Racism is bad. Oh my gosh, are they still protesting? Are they still talking about Breonna Taylor? Yeah, we are, right? But if you can, if you can't stick with it beyond the celebration, then you shouldn't start at all, which I've said before. But my point being, let me stay here on this point because I'm sorry, I started to run down this road where I started to feel myself getting a little bit worked up. The point being, if you need to be the hero, stop. I forget the quote now and who said it, but it's something along the lines, if you've come here to help me, don't bother. It's a paraphrasing of a really powerful quote. Because at the end of the day, what we are trying to do is to contend for a better world. And the better world that we're contending for doesn't have people who have an incessant need to be the hero. They're people who are willing to step out and make mistakes, people who are willing to ask questions that are awkward and that may sometimes be offensive. I know that I have many times in my relationships with people not been the hero. I have been the person who caused harm. I didn't mean to, but I did. And I will again. And you will again. We all will. We all will come to a point where we have to say and do things that we think are right in the moment, that in hindsight we might go, no, that wasn't the right thing to do. Or maybe in hindsight, we look back at it and say it was the right thing to do, but the person that was affected by the thing that we did or said, it's just like they couldn't it wasn't the right thing for them. And so they had to move on. And that's not good nor bad. It just is. And sometimes being a good neighbor, being a good relative, as you'll hear about on this week's episode of Existential, being a good relative to someone is just being mindful of treating them the way that you would want someone else to treat you. And sometimes the way I'd want someone to treat me and I treat someone that way isn't necessarily how they want to be treated. And I learned from that and I move on. And when you are a white ally and you're trying to help with anti-racism, guess what? You're going to get involved and you're going to say something stupid. And someone is going to correct you on it. I've said something stupid and had to be corrected on it. I might have said something stupid today and someone will correct me on it. Or maybe I've said something that I deeply believe and someone disagrees. And that's okay. That's life. But if I'm constantly trying to hold on to like, oh, I need everyone to think highly of me, and I don't want anybody to be upset with me, and I don't want to hurt anybody's feelings. We don't move forward that way. We only move forward with people who are willing to say, look, life is messy. Sometimes things go sideways. Sometimes everyone who's with me now may not be with me then, but I got to move forward anyway. I got to keep going and striving anyway. There's something over there that we can achieve and accomplish together. And I got to keep going towards that thing because I believe it seems like right now that thing is the best. But it's just what I think. I'm a human being, and it's okay for me to be human. It's not okay for me to do consistent harm to people and step on people and intentionally break people in order to get something selfishly that I want. But it is okay for me to strive for what I believe is our collective good. And if people are hurt in the process of me doing that, I have to acknowledge that, say I'm sorry for the harm, but I can't not move forward because I'm afraid of doing harm. And I feel like there's so many of us who like want to do good work, but we're like, it seems messy. And it seems like some people may be mad at me. And it seems like I won't be celebrated for that. So I'm not going to do it. Or I'm going to stop midway through. I'm going to stop when it gets hard. I'm going to stop when people roll their eyes. You know how many people friends I've lost? People who like were tracking, they're no longer tracking. People who were celebrating me for being, whatever I was to them or for them. And now they're like, this is too much. And I'm not going to sit here and act like that doesn't hurt, doesn't bother me. This is the social media age, and I'm a person who is on social media. In fact, I get off social media a lot because I have window into my life. I have more of an addiction to social media than I probably should. But like I see the numbers. I see when there's, oh, it was at this number, now there's less. And I know that less is usually due to the fact that people are just like, no, it's too much. They're mostly white folks who decided that like they could not endure us continuing to talk about race. But we have to endure the continued murder and breaking of Black bodies in the streets. I mean, Pasadena right now is in the middle of some of my friends down there, Andre Henry and them, starting some good trouble over another Black man who was shot who was running away. We still haven't seen justice for Elijah McClain or Breonna Taylor. But yet we come to a point where like people want us to stop talking about it. It's too much. We should move on to something else. We should move on to some other topic and some other thing. And we start being labeled things. We start being labeled villain type things, which is why I almost named this particular Existential Sunday, why it's time to embrace the villain. Because if me or anyone else who stays consistently talking about the movement for Black lives, who continues to shout from the rooftops that Black lives matter, if that makes us a villain, so be it. I will be the Joker, Penguin. I'll be Lex Luthor. I will be Bane. It doesn't. I will be anyone you name. I will be that villain if that's what that means. If that's what if that's what it means to be the villain, sign me up for it. Let me end with this last thing. I hope this. I approach these Sundays sometimes with like, okay, I got thoughts, right? And I need to process it and I can just say some stuff out loud because it's in me and I just got to get it out of me. I don't write it down in notes. So if you're trying to follow me and you're a person whose mind is like, can only follow this straight line, I'm sorry. That's just not how I talk to you. There's a story in the Bible with Jesus and his disciples where two of his disciples are like having this conversation about who's going to be greatest among them. And their mom had asked Jesus to let their kid her kids sit on his right and on his left, and Jesus said this weird thing like, well, basically they can do it if they can drink from the cup that I'm gonna drink from, and no one knew what that meant. I still kind of don't know exactly what it means. I think Jesus was talking about suffering, like that the way to greatness is through suffering. In fact, he said to his disciples that if you want to be great, that you have to be a servant. And the irony, I think, in that, and the riddle in that is that actually being a servant is not striving for greatness. But we've kind of made this idea, certainly people from the Christian tradition, and made this idea that like, oh, okay, so you're saying that's how I can become great. Cool. Let me go serve. But I think the point Jesus was making is, who cares who's great? Who cares? Who cares who's the hero? What matters is being faithful, being a servant, being a person who says, there's a need in the world that I can meet, so I'm going to meet it. There are people over there who need help, so I'm going to help them. There are children who are hungry, so I'm going to feed them. There are people in prison, so I'm going to visit them. There is a system of being and a way of being in the world that oppresses people, so I'm going to oppose that evil and try to help the people who are oppressed find freedom. That is what I believe is a life well lived, is a life that says, I'm not striving to be the hero. I'm not striving to be great. I'm not striving to have my name anywhere. I'm not doing that. And I understand it's human nature. It's human. I already said it's human nature in me to try to be more than I actually am. But like the life well lived, the thing that gives us the most peace in our lives is when we take a deep breath, accept who we are, where we are, that we are who we are, where we are, and we say, from that place, how can I help somebody else? How can I help lift someone up? How can I help? And I think we lose sight of the greatness in that. We're like, who cares? I don't think that Mother Teresa was trying to be great. I think Mother Teresa was trying to help people in need. I don't think Dr. King, certainly I know from reading about Dr. King, that Dr. King was not trying to be great. Dr. King was trying to free the world. Dr. King was trying to help lift up the oppressed. In fact, when Dr. King started getting death threats, the reason he didn't stop was because there was too much work to do to help other folks. And he ultimately died trying to do that. And as a result, there's a holiday that we have celebrating this person who in his lifetime was actually what's that word I'm trying to use? Demonized. I was going to say villainized. But anyway, demonized for his work. Call him a communist. All of those things that happened during his time, he was the villain, the bad guy. And now we look back at him as an antagonist, as a protagonist. Because he wasn't trying to be it. He wasn't trying to be one. He was just trying to help. That, my friends, is what I want to charge all of us with. So we all just do what we can for those that we can. Yeah. That's how it ended. Yeah. That just came. You hear that? It just came to me. Do what you can for those that you can. Grace and peace to all of you, my friends, for watching this. I so appreciate it. If you've watched this thing for 28 minutes, almost 29 minutes on a replay, especially, I would imagine that it means there's something worth sharing. But I mean, you also ain't got to share it and say, I know this is long, but because I see that sometimes, which is whatever. I mean, don't bother me. Obviously it does. I know this is long, but just if you're going to share it, share it. Okay. Don't tell people it's long. I mean, it is 30 minutes. So if you watch this whole time and you still want to share it, that must mean that it's, I said something that helped you. All right, folks. Grace and peace to all of you. Remember all of the people affected by the fires. Remember the Bryant family today. If you're people who pray, you can pray for all of those folks. Grace and peace. Till next time.